Humble salutations at the lotus feet of Pujya Gurudev, Pujya Swami Brahmanandji, Acharyas of the mission, and a hearty welcome to each and every one of you for this august occasion. At the outset, I would like to thank Pujya Swami Brahmanandji for giving us this opportunity to reflect on the life and glories of Pujya Gurudev's life. Pujya Gurudev has many facets in his life. Today we will specifically look at his role as a pracharak, as a teacher in his life. It was in the year 1951 that after completion of training under the guidance of Pujya Swami Tapovan Maharaj, he set out on this great mission of spreading the message of the scriptures to the entire globe. So in the year 1951, after obtaining the blessings of Pujya Swami Tapovan Maharaj and also Pujya Swami Shivananji Maharaj, who blessed him very heartily, he wrote a letter also telling that you should spread the message of the scriptures to all parts of the globe, like how Pujya Swami Vivekanandji did it. So with the blessings of two great masters, Pujya Swami Chinmayanandji set out on this great journey. His first stop was in Pune in the year 1951. It was the December of 1951. He did not have even a paisa in hand, no help, nobody to organize the program. He didn't know who will come and attend the classes also, but he set out with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm. And we should remember that at this point of time, the background of India was that after almost 1,000 years of colonial rule, Mughal rule, we had totally lost touch, connection with our ancient scriptures. And especially during the British Empire rule, the Macaulay system of education totally destroyed our Gurukula system of education. As a consequence, we were all westernized in thought, mannerism, habit, language, education. So consequently, if somebody had to talk about scriptures, it was really something which it was not a common thing at all, because people were not aware of scriptures. They were only using it as a means of ritualism. It was only in the puja room of people. Nobody was discussing it. No one was studying or learning it. And dare say nobody was preaching the scriptures to the public. So it was in that kind of a background that Pujya Gurudev started this first program at Pune. There were hardly a handful of participants on the first day in the temple. He himself organized the program, and before the program started, he organized for Japa Yajna, and then during this was a 100-day Yajna, the first Yajna. And during this Yajna, it happened between 1951 to 52. Those days he used to talk on Upanishads. So in and through these Yajnas, the modality was, it used to start with Japa Yajna, and also there were rituals conducted, Havan was conducted, and towards the concluding part of the Yajna, he had a ceremony called sprinkling of Ganges water. It was a very, very interesting ceremony. So the kind of ceremony, the kind of motivation, the kind of ritualism which Pujya Gurudev brought into the entire Jnana Yajna aspect, it was all encompassing. So for the people who took part in this program of more than 100 days in Pune, it was a total spiritual renaissance program. And one can very confidently say, after several hundreds of years, this was the truly first cultural revival, spiritual revival program which was ever undertaken in India by a great Mahatma. It was an astounding success. So after the success of this first Yajna at Pune, then Pujya Gurudev embarked on the second Yajna in 1953 at Chennai. And the interesting aspect was, in spite of scanning the length and breadth of Chennai, no one was willing to give him the venue. And finally, after a lot of difficulty and lot of discussions and deliberations, finally he managed to get a haunted house as a venue. Pujya Gurudev said, never mind, let us start the prachar work from whichever venue is available. So that is how the first Yajna at Chennai was held in a haunted house. There again, lot of Brahmin crowd was there, and they said, you are an outcast. First of all, you are a non-Brahmin, and how can you talk about our scriptures in a language which is ancient, that is English language. So in a variety of ways, people tried to discourage him, boycott him, and in fact they took this matter for deliberation to the Kanchi seer. And luckily for Pujya Gurudev, Kanchi seer admonished the people who complained about this, and he even said, at least you encourage him. Here is one person who is willing to talk about the scriptures when none of you are willing to talk about it. Let us not do anything to obstruct his prachar work. So that way, Pujya Gurudev's yajna of another 100 days happened in Chennai very successfully. The crowd, which was very small in the beginning, gradually built up, and over a period of time it was very huge crowd. The third yajna was in 1953 again at Delhi. So when he was conducting the New Delhi yajna, that was the time when people who had attended the yajna at Chennai, who were inspired by his talks, they said, we need some kind of a gathering wherein we can discuss and recollect whatever Pujya Gurudev has taught us. So that is how the Chinmaya movement was started in 1953 at Chennai. Initially Pujya Gurudev did not agree, but later on when the devotees insisted and said that it is going to be only for knowledge purposes, only for discussion purposes, then Pujya Gurudev agreed. So that is how 1953 formally the Chinmaya movement started at Chennai. So thereafter, once the Delhi Yajna was completed, then Swami Shivanandji gave this idea to Pujya Gurudev. Instead of talking about Upanishads and also holding 100 days of Yajnas, why not try to talk for 21 days? That is for a smaller duration, and also try to cover a wide variety of places. So that is how, instead of sticking to the 100 days kind of a schedule, then Pujya Gurudev moved on to 21 days kind of schedule, and gradually, instead of only Upanishads, he started including Gita, because he found that the audience who are listening to Upanishads, they are not prepared audience. They are not sufficiently trained to listen to the scriptures, especially the Vedantic treatises. So hence, consequently, Pujya Gurudev said, let us start the Jnana Prachar work and take it forward using Gita as the base. So that is where Pujya Gurudev coined this Gita Jnana Yajna as an important terminology. This is the banner in which Pujya Gurudev then started systematically conducting these talks all over the globe. So that is how, this is in fact the most important point in the mission movement, the starting of Gita Jnana Yajnas. Because Pujya Gurudev understood, for the common man, especially if he has to face his day-to-day problems and how to improve his work, how to improve his efficiency, the answer was in Gita, because he is not in a position to understand the Upanishads directly. So in fact, even in his Gita commentary, he has really done complete justice to Gita by including different categories. For students, what is the section you should read? For business person, what are the sections you should read? For a person who is having trouble, undergoing a problem, if you are going through a calamity, what is it you should read? If you are going through stress strain. So that's how Pujya Gurudev has categorized in what all ways the scriptural teachings and learnings could benefit the people. So he has totally customized the teaching. So thereafter there was no stopping the mission movement. Pujya Gurudev covered the length and breadth of India, and from there on he started traveling across the globe also. This is when he realized that single person, he cannot come to each place continuously, and there was a lot of gap between one yajna and the other in a particular city. This is when he realized, why not train 100 Swami Vivekanandas? With that mission, he said, let us now construct Sandipani Sadhanalaya at Mumbai. So in 1963, he started the construction work for Sandipani Sadhanalaya. Over a period of 3 years, this was completed. And the funding for this he single-handedly raised by his travels throughout the US, in India, all over the globe. Single-handedly he went about raising money for buying the site, for constructing such a huge premises, and thereafter getting ready to recruit the right kind of candidates, give them free training and send them out to the field. So that is how systematically hundreds of Swami Vivekanandas have been trained in these Sandipani Sadhanalayas. And simultaneously the mission centers were set up with the help of the public. The temples were constructed. So when each of the brahmacharis and brahmacharinis who were trained, they came out, they were placed in a center suitable for them, depending on the place from where they came originally. So they could go back and do the prachar work to the public whom they understand and in a language which the public understands. So that is how Pujya Gurudev could customize this entire Vedantic treatise and give it in a way to the people from whichever part they came from, in a very customized manner and in a way in which they could understand. So this was a vast mission. Imagine one individual who brought this entire cultural renaissance when nobody else was, no institution, no mutt was ready to come forward. Here was one individual who brought this great cultural heritage to the public, raised the public awareness. He trained the people who will go out and meet the public and do the prachar work, build the centers from scratch, build the temples, made innumerable books and publications and cassettes. So that way a large number of people were benefited. So those people who were motivated and really in a position to take forward the mission work which Pujya Gurudev was doing, he recruited them, he gave them free training at Sandipani Sadhanalaya. So somebody who was really interested in learning the message of the scriptures, the Vedanta, Upanishads, Gita and Brahma Sutras, totally free of cost for a period of 2 years, this was taught at Mumbai. So similar centers were established in various parts of the world. So in US a center was established, at Siddhabari center was established, and similarly for regional training, the respective Acharyas started regional Sandipani training courses. So that is how this mission movement really grew in large number, and large number of Acharyas who were trained, who were inspired, who were motivated and who were ready to sacrifice their life for establishing the wisdom of the scriptures. They took upon themselves this mission of nation building and sharing the message of the scriptures with the public at large. So this is how the movement began. So this is one aspect. The second aspect, he understood that everyone, whoever is attending the yajnas and the lectures, they are not ready and available immediately to understand the highest Vedantic truths. So how do we help the public to take them from where they are to where he was? So this is where, depending on the age group, he categorized and brought about various classes. So for children, he started the Balavihar classes. So at a very young age, when children did not understand anything about the scriptures, and especially at home also nothing was taught because the parents did not know anything about it. So they come to the Balavihar classes. Initially the attraction was of course chocolates, and slowly they got in touch, they built a rapport with the sevaks and sevikas, and over a period of time the children were taught the value system, the benefit of our culture, and most importantly to sit down even for 1 hour quietly, singing the glory of the Lord and developing a good rapport with the sevaks and sevikas. So the Balavihar was the fundamental bedrock for development for any individual. So whoever went through Balavihar, they had the very solid grounding in terms of how to do the basic pujas, basic rituals and basic stotrams and bhajans. So from Balavihar, then they move on to the youth, Yuva Kendra stage. This is where Pujya Gurudev said, youth are not useless but useless. They are not careless but cared less. Because the youth is the age where the entire dynamism is available. You can either make or mar yourself. If right guidance is not given at this particular age group, they will become self-destructive and also destructive for the society. So keeping this in mind, Pujya Gurudev devised a beautiful study scheme for the Yuva Kendra. So how did it start? They start from a basic text like I Love You, Kindle Life, Self-Unfoldment, Bhaja Govindam. So in all these books, what was taught to them? The same message of the Upanishads, Gita, they were brought out, chiseled down by Pujya Gurudev to a form which a youth could understand. So how could he understand? How do you improve productivity of your work? How do you quieten your mind? Why do you get really emotionally weakened? Why do we really cow down in the face of challenges in life? So in the simple forms, using simple techniques, Pujya Gurudev said, how do you go about increasing productivity in your life? How to be a better youth? If you are going to focus on a particular career, how do you achieve success in your career? So the entire philosophy and approach was art of man making. There was at no point of time a referral to giving up life and running away from life. No. Pujya Gurudev's belief was how to convert Hindus to Hinduism, and how do you create this art of man making and nation building. Always he kept the nation and the individual's heart and the benefit at large in his mind, because his belief was if a country has to be built, it has to be built brick by building the individual personality. The strength of the house depends on the strength of each of the bricks. So similarly, the strength of the nation depends on the strength of each of the individuals who constitute the individual total population of that country. So that is how he built this dynamism, the fire, the zeal, the missionary enthusiasm in the minds of all the listeners. So youth were really motivated. They came in large numbers. And the benefit here was they had two choices. If they were really determined, highly inspired to make this as their full goal of life, they had the choice to join Sandipani Sadhanalaya and make this a full-time occupation of their life to spread the message of the scriptures. But supposing if they decided, no, immediately I am not prepared for it, I am not ready for it, no problem. Puja Gurudev said, you go back to your work, you get married, you succeed in your career. Thereafter, once you have kind of settled down, there will come a time when you can join study group. So in study group, what is the syllabus? What is the study scheme which he created? Any individual who entered there starts with a basic text like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, Bhaja Govindam, Viveka Chudamani, then basics of Gita, and gradually, if the class is progressing at a reasonably rapid pace, then you are given a chance to get into each of the Upanishads all the way up to Mandukya Upanishad. So the kind of study scheme, the kind of thought which Puja Gurudev put into each of these study schemes is amazing. The kind of customization, the level to which he came down, he empathized with the audience, he understood our plight, he knew that we will not be in a position to understand Mandukya directly. So how do you take the individual all the way from I love you to Mandukya? That was the journey. So the most important part for all of us is, here is a huge platform, a huge opportunity which Puja Gurudev has provided to each of us. Please do not stop anywhere in between. There is no point in stopping the journey in between. If you are totally convinced, join full time and learn the scriptures and make it the missionary goal of your life. Supposing if you want to take it slowly, start from Balavihar stage, encourage the children to get into Yuva Kendra, and you also please join study group. And in the study group, we should try our level best to complete the entire journey which Puja Gurudev has set out for us. And the best part is, whoever has listened to Puja Gurudev live directly or in and through his audio cassettes and the video tapes, the kind of impact and the influence which he has had on our lives is immense. Even today, each of the texts, there will be one key point, key learning. Some examples which we can just reflect on at this point of time. When he used to talk about Gita chapter 9, the way in which he used to say, they are in me, I am not in them. Many of us would not be in a position to remember the shloka, what was it about, what context. But the way, the depth with which he said, they are in me, I am not in them. And then next he goes on to say, they are not there at all. There is only one pure self, the infinite consciousness. So in each of the chapters, similarly when he talks about Kathopanishad, the qualities of Nachiketa which he praises, and especially when he says the ability to face death. How many of us have this courage and the willingness and the ability to face death? Because most of us, even at the thought of death, we totally collapse. But here was an individual, when Lord Death, Yama, was right in front of him, and there he was confidently asking boon for his father, boon for the society, and finally he is saying, tell me what lies beyond you. What is it that lies beyond death? And in spite of so many enticements which Lord Yama gives, here is young Nachiketa who says, no, I only want this knowledge. So Puja Gurudev says, unless and until you have this mumukshutva, this willingness to go beyond, going beyond the mortality, going beyond the sense of finitude, and you are seeking for the infinite with the intense mumukshutva, it is only then that knowledge is available. If there is only shallow mumukshutva, we will not be able to get anything. So whatever you have decided, please go the full distance and the whole hog. Similarly, all the way when he comes up to the Mandukya Upanishad also, many of us, what do we say? There is an infinite, and from the infinite, the finite are separated. And this is the assumption we have very strongly. And what is it that we say? Somehow, if the finite merges back into the infinite, that we call it as moksha. But what Puja Gurudev said was, there was no question of the finite separating from infinite. There is no two. There is only one. The day you understand that there is only one, that is the day you have obtain mukti or moksha. Because the day the sadhana ends, the day the sadhak clearly understands that there is no journey at all, there is no goal to reach, there is no place from which to start. The finite cannot become infinite. The infinite never became finite. There is only one pure self, there is only one supreme self. The kind of conviction which Pujya Gurudev gave to the audience, whoever was there, they clearly understood that there is no question of snake becoming rope. There is only rope. But Swamiji, I am seeing the snake. That is because there is problem with your vision. So the question should be, many of us when we go for question and answer session with Pujya Gurudev, we keep on asking several questions. Finally at one point of time he says, question the questioner. The questioner is the problem. As long as questioner is there, variety of questions will come. Because our basic hypothesis, the basis on which we are asking the questions, everything is totally wrong. So keeping this in mind, Pujya Gurudev used to simply handle each of the doubts, whatever from whichever quarters it comes. Another great quality of Pujya Gurudev is, from wherever letters reach him, it may be even the smallest, silliest possible doubt. Every day early in the morning at 4 o'clock, Pujya Gurudev will get up. He will promptly open these letters, answer each of these letters personally. And imagine those days, in the initial days, personal handwritten letters. How many of us have received those letters? It is incredible. Today, even for email, people don't have patience to reply. And those days, Pujya Gurudev used to physically reply to these letters. So the extent to which he could think, he had the concern, the love. In fact, he used to say, I have a hose pipe of love. Whoever comes near me, I just shower this love and grace on whoever comes near me. And the best part was, he was a great master. He always says, you should know how to handle your emotions. I have on one pocket love, on the other pocket anger. So when the situation demands, I will take out anger from my one pocket, use it and put it back. Similarly, when I have to teach somebody, I will take the teacher role, take on, give the teaching, put it back. The best part was, whatever he spoke about, the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, he lived it. So whoever were blessed enough to see him, live with him and listen to his teachings, when the Sthita Prajna Lakshana was discussed, they had no doubt whatsoever. So when he told that like a tortoise, you should know when to take the limbs out, when to take the limbs in. Similarly, he knew when to change the role, when to take it, when to leave it. He was a master in whatever he did, whichever role. Today, we have only been discussing his role as a teacher. There are innumerable roles which he has done. His role as a pracharak, his role as an administrator, his role in his activities with respect to formation of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. So in a variety of ways, the number of roles which one individual in one lifetime has done, it is insurmountable, it is immeasurable, and we cannot even imagine the length and breadth to which he has covered each of the roles and done justice, full justice. Look at the number of centers which have been established all over the world. And we can very confidently say at any point of time, when we point out there is a talk happening in one or the other Chinmaya Mission Center somewhere in the globe, anywhere, at any point of time, round the clock, 24/7, this prachar work is going on. There are lakhs and lakhs of people who are getting the benefit of this talk. This is a huge movement, the huge missionary zeal with which he set up, and due credit should be given to all the acharyas who have dedicated their entire lifetime. Because the most important part is, after the life, the samadhi of Pujya Gurudev, how has the mission progressed thereafter? And we should really acknowledge here the role of the acharyas, the hundreds of acharyas who have come out of Sandipani Sadhanalaya, the kind of sacrifices, the kind of hardships, the kind of turbulence and turmoil which they have gone through, the kind of challenges which they have faced. And even today, in the midst of the pandemic, the kind of challenges which the acharyas are facing in running the centers, in spite of all these hardships and problems, they leave no stone unturned in terms of making sure that Pujya Gurudev work continues, and it continues with greater momentum and greater zeal. This can happen only when we all join together and do whatever best possible. We should be at the feet of the Acharyas and do whatever the Acharyas tell us and guide us. Because for us, Acharyas are Pujya Gurudev. Because it is through Acharyas that Pujya Gurudev today is guiding us, is directing us, is teaching us. So whatever the Acharyas tell us, we should confidently go forward, carrying on the work. Those of us who have been fortunate enough to directly listen to Pujya Gurudev, make sure you pass on this message of inspiration and zeal to many hundreds and thousands of people who have not had the good fortune of seeing him, listening to him, seeing him play various roles. So this kind of message of hope and inspiration of the spirit of Vedanta, the spirit of Gurudev's teachings, each of us have to make sure that we carry forward. How do we carry forward? First of all, listen to his teachings, listen to his talks, reflect on them every day, contemplate on the teachings, and thereafter, whatever wisdom you have picked out from Pujya Gurudev's teachings, let us share with whoever is coming and willing to listen with us. This is the only offering which we can offer at the feet of Pujya Gurudev. The kind of work which he has done, this is our humble, simple offering. So, on this very august occasion, let us all take this solemn pledge to make sure that we follow the teachings of Pujya Gurudev. We make sure that we invite Pujya Gurudev to our life every day. Every day our life should be like the life which we lead in Sandipani Sadhanalaya. Have a daily routine. Listen to the scriptures. Reflect on it. Contemplate on it. Make this a full-time occupation. We may be playing any role in our day-to-day life. We may be a full-time acharya, we may be a teacher, we may be a businessman. It doesn't matter. Those are all veshas, the roles which we play. What is most important, the essence is, how much of the scripture has gone into you? How much have you absorbed? Can you make that a full-time occupation? Can we spread this missionary zeal? Can we spread the message of Pujya Gurudev and make sure that large cross-section of the people are able to get this message? This is the only offering we can offer to Pujya Gurudev on this very august occasion of Pujya Gurudev's Aradhana. May we all prostrate at Pujya Gurudev's feet, prostrate at the feet of all the Acharyas, make sure that we are helping them, we are a pliant reed in the hands of the eternal flute player. Let our ego totally surrender at his feet. Once again, we would like to thank Pujya Gurudev, all the Acharyas, Pujya Swami Brahmananji for this wonderful opportunity to reflect on Pujya Gurudev's life. Hari Om.